Samuel, hello.
Hi, Louis.
How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm okay. How are you?
No, I'm good, thank you. Um, yeah,
So,
I'm good.
Louis's got a great book, a
I've got a
novel
book lined up
for
today,
us
ladies and
today.
gentlemen.
Yeah, go on, Louis. Do you want to tell them what it is?
So, today I have the absolute pleasure and delight of talking about Fahrenheit 451, which is the most famous novel by American author Ray Bradbury. Bradbury, sorry. And no, I'm looking forward to telling you about it. We have actually recorded this one before in the Christmas holidays,
We did.
and audio didn't work.
Yeah.
So this
we
is
had
round
some-
2.
Yeah, it will work this time.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. So I hope you enjoy it, and I hope we will too.
Yeah, no, it should be good.
Welcome back to the English Boys.
The show where we discuss all things literature.
I'm Samuel.
And I'm Louis, and thank you for tuning in.
Right, Louis. Take it away.
So, I'm just going to start by doing some, I've got about, what's that, 10-ish facts. I'm just going to say, and we can discuss them briefly, and then I'll dive straight into the plot.
Nice.
So this will be spoilers and all that jazz. But I personally have actually never read Fahrenheit 451, but I've always heard of it and thought the premise and it just sounded really interesting. And personally, I'm a huge fan of sci-fi and dystopian, so I was really really looking forward to delving into it. So as I mentioned, author is Ray Bradbury, and he was born in Illinois in the United States of America in August 1920, and he died in 2012, so fairly recently, on June 5th. And this is his most successful book, and he has written about 30 books and over 300 short stories. So he has
Wow.
quite a breadth
Yeah.
of books and works, but he's also done poems, plays, even essays. So yeah, Bradbury's got a big selection, and through that he has won loads of awards, and that's him and Fahrenheit 451, and it's hailed as a big, very well known and influential sci-fi book. And one thing I thought was interesting is this was written before Frank Herbert's Dune. I think Dune was about the 60s, and this was 53. And yeah, I thought that was interesting because I would always, I was telling something about this, I always saw Herbert's Dune as the sort of, pivotal point and the big sort of, I don't know what the word is, but, the big sci-fi book that really was the catalyst for that genre.
Yeah.
But this came before, and I don't know if you could argue that that Dune took inspiration from it, but I think just the fact that this is dystopian fiction that came out in 1953, that is before the likes of Dune and things. I thought, I don't know, yeah, a little thing I just thought was interesting. And yeah, as I said, it's very iconic as a sci-fi book, and it's had film adaptation. So there's a film with Michael B. Jordan in it.
Oh, wow.
And so yeah, it's very influential and big. And the name. So when I first saw it, I thought the name was a bit interesting, but the name it is called Fahrenheit 451. That's because that is the combustion point of paper,
Okay.
and that is really interesting because as we go into the plot and things, that is that makes sense because the book is all about the burning of books.
Yeah.
So thought that was really interesting. So then one big theme I think you could take away from it, that's what I'd love you to talk about if you're happy to.
Yeah, sure.
Is Bradbury got the idea of the burning books from when he saw Hitler burning books when he was a teenager. So there's that it's really a historical moment, but personally I see it from that scene in Indiana Jones where Hitler's burning all of the books in World War II. And yeah, is there anything before I get into the plot and things? Are you happy to sort of elaborate on that whole idea of the burning books and how that could be taken into literature?
Yeah, sure. So, in the Second World War, the burning of the books in Germany was sort of censorship, and also to promote nationalism within Nazi Germany. And I think what the author here is really trying to get onto is that, like, the censorship, isn't it, and the control of the government. Yeah, that scene from Indiana Jones is very funny, isn't it? When he gets his book signed by Hitler to throw on the fire. Definitely, yeah.
And
Not one.
yeah, no, thank you. That's yeah, that's really helpful. And also the idea of so 1953 is the year of Stalin's death. So that's also dictatorship. That dictator of yeah, like Hitler, and the whole theme of censorship is really apparent and really um important in the book, because that is essentially what the whole book is about. It's about the censorship of knowledge, and that, I guess, could be argued if that's what Hitler was doing, censoring the knowledge of the
Yeah.
books. That's what.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I'm not the
No, that's
history
fine.
guy. But yeah, you happy for me to go through the plot and
Yeah,
things?
take it away. Take it away.
Fantastic. Right. This is a crash course through the plot of Fahrenheit 451. So, as I said, I haven't read the book, but this is my research I've gathered of the plot as such.
Yeah. Great.
So it takes place in a world where nuclear wars have been won by the USA and the Cold War has escalated.
So in 1953, and that's actually really interesting because 1953 is sort of at the real beginning, the birth of the Cold War. So the fact that the author here has kind of almost preempted the a result of the Cold War, I find fascinating. But yeah,
No, that's brilliant. And I'm sorry, listeners, I'll just say, we've got he's very talented, but the piano in the background, I'm afraid, we're in the music block currently, and yeah, some students practicing next door. So apologies for that, but
I think he's very
he's very good.
So that should be nice.
So main character is a man named Guy Montag, and he is a fireman. But then in this dystopian world, firemen have a reversed role where firemen are in charge of burning instead of extinguishing fires. And their main role is to go around burning books, because there's this big theme of censorship, as we said. So this dystopian world is controlling all of the knowledge, and yeah, you could really extract that from Hitler and from Stalin, if that's something they would do, and that's what's related to it. So yeah, it's illegal to own any books, and the I'll talk a bit about it in the themes, but it's the idea of technology versus, I don't know the words, like just raw knowledge, and that idea, that comparison, I just think is really interesting, especially through the parallels in history. I think is very cool.
I think also adding on to the sort of the image of the fireman, for those of you who know your World War II, it kind of compares to the Gestapo, who were sort of the secret police, and also in the USSR, the NKVD, who were around in the purges, who essentially just went round and tried to sort of trip people up or find out who was a sort of a class enemy or threatening the state. So yeah, I think that's a really interesting comparison.
Yeah. No, thank you. That's fantastic. The next up, so Guy Montag, he's this fireman. He likes his job. He's content with it. But yeah, going around burning books, because books are illegal, and this whole idea of censorship knowledge is, that's what the book is built on. That's its foundation. So next up, he meets his neighbour Clarice, and she is a character which is sort of a bit more of a, I don't know, like a vagabond, or like a basically she's curious, and she's a questioning person that has an effect on Guy, which makes him question the world and himself. So I don't know too much about her character particularly, but the idea of this controlled society, this controlled world by, like, technology and by politicians, but then you have this character who's this anomaly, who's willing to question this, and that rubs off on Guy, which is really interesting. So yeah, then he spends time with her, and then you meet Mildred, who's Guy's wife, and she overdoses on sleeping pills, which could I just thought I could have an insight into maybe like the role of drugs in this new dystopian world, because if there's a society of an overload of like technology and corrupt leaders, I think drugs would have a place in that. so then next up is like sort of just like a pivotal moment in the story, in a way. And that's during a book burning. Guy actually, like a routine book burning. You know, they'll go round and,
Yeah.
and burn books. And Guy actually steals a book, from the owner, who's having her books burnt, and that's really interesting because that's beginning to express Clarice's effect on Guy. That's beginning to show that her making him just simply think is really doing something to him in a way, and that begins Guy's sort of switch into this not being sort of an automated, like robotic like person in this corrupt world. He's being more curious, you know, and trying to break the mold.
Yeah.
Okay, so next is Mildred, Guy's wife, tells Guy that Clarice is dead, and I think it was that she got hit by a car.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but I think she got hit by a car, and this leaves Guy disturbed, and that also then begins to show the development into Guy's maybe like care for Clarice, because she's now influenced him in a way where he begins to care about her, and then I don't know if this was like catalyst to this, but anyway, Guy basically becomes ill and doesn't go to work.
Okay.
So and then Guy shows the books he saw. So Guy Guy took the book from the book. Oh, and I didn't mention actually. So when Guy seals the book, the owner of these books burns herself in the fire as well. So she burns herself alive, which is quite morbid. But then it shows like the place of death as well in this world. But yeah, nevertheless, Guy shows the stolen books. So yeah, he's gathered some stolen books throughout throughout his book burnings. And he shows them to Mildred, and this again shows Guy's sort of care for Mildred, to be like, because she's his wife, and he's like, this is his curiosity that he's gathered, and he's wanting to express that. And I think yeah, and then sorry, is there anything else you
no.
Oh, okay.
Keep going.
So essentially, then he teams up. I put teams up just because I'm childish or whatever. He meets and befriends this English professor called Faber, and that's at just a park that he's at, and being like this English professor in this broken world, in this corrupt world of of censorship of books, is it's quite interesting to see. And you can think about the place that that English still has in a society like this, and it can make you think of how perhaps looking ahead to see how education could change, and how like literature's place in the world could be in the future, especially with the development of automation and AI. And I think that could also show how this book is so prevalent today, is the build up of AI and that new world we're turning to.
I guess that reinforces the idea of like control, authoritative control.
So yeah, the next up, Guy decides to show Mildred his stolen books. So yeah, throughout the time of doing these routine book burnings, and I was just gonna add the that time he steals the book for the first time, the owner burns herself alive in the fire, and that could that shows death's place in this dystopian world, and it's just quite morbid, really.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, not
Could
at
it
all.
symbolise the fact that sort of the author in his mind is like showing the necessity of creativity and imagination?
Wow, yeah.
And therefore, because the woman has died within the fire of burning the books, that shows that the death of creativity
is the death of a person.
The death of humanity.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Okay. Yeah, no, totally. I think so. And just like the that's brilliant. So Guy shows throughout these routine burnings, he's stolen books throughout the time because of that influence that Clarice has had on him. And then he meets an English professor by the name of Faber in a park. And sorry, this is like on another note. And yeah, we were just chatting about it. It can propose the idea of, this world where books are illegal, and you're not able to own them, and it's that whole restraint and that censorship. It can show the place that an English professor would have in that world, because if your whole material is illegal now, so it's
Yeah.
it could show you're almost like a gangster now. But yeah, this still continues to build on that idea of knowledge and that influence of Clarice on Guy and on his life. And yeah. So next up, the firemen respond to an alarm that's coming from Guy's house. So I assume, they have like fire alarms or whatever, or just general alarms in the people living there in their houses. So yeah, the firemen, people Guy works for, the salamanders, they respond to one of from an alarm coming from Guy's house. And they immediately rush there to go there in the fire engine and stuff. And it turns out that Mildred actually turned Guy in. So that sort of
Really?
backstabbing, the betrayal. And I think we probably discussed this a bit, is that Mildred hasn't conformed to this new world that Guy's found.
Yeah.
But she has conformed to the automated, the censorship, the authoritarian, that world.
Yeah.
And that shows this heartbreak, this divide, or whatever you like to call it, split between the two. And that's quite sad, really. And then as soon as the firemen arrive, she flees the scene. And so at this point, I believe Guy is part of that fire brigade that runs to itself. Sorry.
No worries.
And so Mildred turns him, and that must be really, hard for him.
Must be.
And so there, Guy is pressured and forced to burn down his own home, which is that I don't know if this says like parallels for history and things, but that forcing to destroy something, that home, because Captain Beatty, who's his captain, he like mocks him, and he ends up hitting Guy, actually. They have this tussle, this riffraff.
Yes.
And hitting Guy actually causes an earpiece to fall out of Guy's ear, and I think the earpiece is called like a seashell earpiece or something. And
is it sort of an earring?
Yeah, kind of like an earbud or something that would be in their ear, and it's got a sorry, I didn't really explain that, but yeah, like an earpiece that you would talk through.
Yeah.
And that falls out, and on the end it has actually Faber. So again, past Louis has made some very unhelpful notes, but I suppose that because of this new life that Guy's leading, he has Faber in his ear supporting him, and so he's got sort of both legs in two different worlds, or whatever the phrase is, aren't they? So he's in both different worlds, and so Beatty now swears to track down whoever this is on the other end.
Okay.
So but then Guy Montag, he ends up snapping, and then he burns Beatty alive. So he has his flamethrower or whatever, and just straight up burns his captain, and
his fire captain.
Yeah. So it's that defiance and that cataclysmic moment of they've had this build up. He's met Clarice, his wife's betrayed him, Faber's getting hunted down. So it's that big build up, and then Guy just snaps and burns him, and that big moment of conflict and that falling action that begins to fall it's really really interesting, and it adds like a whole I believe this is like the beginning of the falling action now. So Guy is, I don't know if force is the right word, but he's done something terrible, like burning his captain, even though you could argue it was just. But nevertheless, you shouldn't kill people, and so he runs away, and he's had all this turmoil of his wife betraying him. Clarice is dead. Faber's getting hunted down, as I just mentioned. So he ends up running away and joins this group of people. I don't know if they have a specific name, but excuse me. He and these people have memorized books
Okay.
essentially.
That's pretty cool.
So no, it's really cool. Must have massive brains. They've so I suppose that's sort of that idea of hope of maybe rewriting all these books and bringing this world back to normal, I suppose. Under this sort of this pressure of books that the pressure that you can't have them. So he joins up in hope of writing these books again. And so guys switched from this fireman with the salamanders to this new I don't know, like society of these really clever people. And this is so then Guy now with these people, his life's kind of collapsed, everything's kind of gone wrong for him. So and he sits there and he watches these jets bomb the city. And essentially that's just the destruction of civilization.
Okay.
And the collapse of that. And Guy and his newfound friends, they just have to sit there and watch that. And I don't know exactly why they're bombing, but it expresses the collapsing of society and of a world. That is really really interesting. Yeah. So I will quickly whiz through. Sorry, that's the Oh no, one more bit. I'm all over the place. So Guy joins them in returning to the city in hope of rebuilding it. So it ends in a nice happy note, quite joyous.
The authorities that are sort of running the place, are they now gone or are they still there due to the bomb?
So I would either think it's the Jets have been an external power that's bombed this society and civilization, which has been even the quote unquote bad guys.
Yeah.
So it's everything gone, and they're just coming in to
nice.
make it all good again, or they are literally the bad guy and they're just trying to go in and try and put it back together. But I'm so sorry. I'm not really sure. I'm not.
I mean, either way, it's on a hopeful end, isn't it?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So I will just looking at the time. I will quickly whiz through some characters.
Fab.
And we can touch on some themes.
Go for it.
So quickly, main character Guy Montag. He's content with his job. He meets Clarice, begins to question, and he's just fascinated by this power of books. And after finding one, it begins to. I didn't really actually talk about this, but it disrupts his marriage. So he's fascinated by this. Well, yeah. So he's fascinated by this. By this idea of reading and books. And for Mildred, that could be the moment where he's reading all these books, and then that could be leading to her betraying him like that. And that's just an interesting thing. So I don't know the legitimacy of that, but
okay,
it's that idea of knowledge, and you could go into like a symbolic view of this if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But the power of knowledge and the power of creativity disrupts for Guy his career and his marriage. And I don't know what I'm suggesting. I'm not saying if you read books your whole life will fall apart. But sorry, I don't really know, but
I guess it symbolises the difficulty of like the opposition to power, and how that. So, for example, to use an extreme example, if you were standing up for Jews, Gypsies, homosexuals in the Second World War in Nazi Germany, you would then lose everything and
I see what you mean.
Possibly get either shot or sent away to a concentration camp. So I guess it is that sort of standing up for what's right and what you believe in takes away from the everyday life or the things that most people have.
No, that's brilliant, thank you. Beatty, Guy's captain, briefly talked about, he senses Guy's fascination with books and begins to get question that, I suppose. So he's sadistic and he toils with what he believes about Montag, but never actually approaches him. So that sort of cowardice, I guess you could suppose. And I've also written here, he uses apt quotes suggesting how bad literature is. so Beatty's really this of course, like the government or whatever. I don't know if they delve into that too much.
Okay.
But sorry, Beatty is this villain, as such you could say. Because he is questioning of guys love for literature that he's got. And from Clarice, smooth transition. She is Guy's 17-year-old neighbour, and she's really the catalyst for the change in Guy's life, inspiring him to question society. And after disappearing one day, dying really, his wife casually says she's been hit by a car. So I originally said that she died, but I suppose after Mildred says that she been hit by a car. That may not necessarily be the truth. I worded that in the weirdest way possible, so I'm sorry. But that could show, I don't know, jealousy or something like that.
That's what you mean.
But he doesn't forget what she told him. Guy doesn't forget what she told him.
Yeah.
So she's really that mental figure for Guy in a way. But what's interesting is because she's so much younger. So that's sort of like a reversal, I suppose.
Yes.
Which is really interesting. And then Mildred, she lacks self-awareness and she's the victim of this dystopian world in a way. So she is like she is obsessed with technology. She doesn't care at all about books. So she is exactly kind of what this dystopian society in this world is wanting to make people.
Yeah. And
Guy and her have this distant relationship, and there's this moment where Guy attempts to read with her and like they connect. But it just, I don't know, I can interpret it as just being awkward in a way. So I've got a couple more. Faber, retired English professor, loves books, and he actually, for one, understands why they're important. And he's that, that hope and being in Guy's ear, like in that moment. He again is like that mentor who would replace Clarice after she disappears. Faber is that guidance for Guy, and they together plot to change the society. So they have a similar relationship with books now that they've got, and So final one is Granger. I don't actually mention Granger, but he is the leader of this group of people who memorize the books, basically.
Okay.
And they have this big replacing of Clarice got replaced with Faber as Guy's mental character, and then kind of Granger now replaced Faber as Faber is still part of that dystopian and that corrupt world of the society, and now so Guy had to leave that behind, so leave Faber behind, but Granger replaced him in that way.
Okay.
So he helps Guy live, like, surviving on the edge of society, giving him advice. And, there's an array of characters which are all quite similar, but then also not. So you've got, like, Mildred and Beatty, who are I said this as well, but, like, bad guys as such, quote unquote. But then you've got these people of hope, like Granger and Mildred, Clarice, rather, and Faber. So, that's really the main characters. And then I'll briefly touch on some themes, because I think they're really interesting, and you can really delve into them. So the first main theme that we've both touched on is censorship.
Yeah.
And the idea of, the government shrouding, or is that the right word? But protecting that, the truth.
Okay.
And we talked about that in history, a bit with like Hitler and Stalin, and that is really, I just think it's really interesting, and that's the main sort of takeaway is the corruptness of this dystopian world that could be reflected in real life.
I guess it's like 1984 was intended to be an Animal Farm as well. A lot of these dystopian novels, they're sort of warnings and almost like signs of recognition. So if things like this start to happen, which seems a bit extreme and far-fetched to say, but the reality is that they did. People did start censoring and burning books, and for example, the cult of personality in the Soviet Union, where they were only allowed to play and make songs and art that glorified certain things.
Yeah.
Still goes on today in some countries. So I guess it is that sort of like warning um, of of authoritative control. I mean, some people are down for it. I'm certainly not. But,
Yeah, no, totally. And yeah, again, even though this is dystopian, it's real. Like exactly like what you said. Sorry, obviously not real, but the themes of censorship and what you so brilliantly were talking about. That is, that happens, and yeah. So some other ones, other themes, just off the top of my head, you got like identity.
Okay.
And you have that changing from Guy being this fireman, and then he changes to be a more of like an anomaly in this world where he chooses to explore and just see the wonders of the world of like what it really is. One more one, which is a big one. I don't know if we've talked about it too much, but just the idea of technology, as a whole, how corrupting that can be, how addictive that can be. So even in modern day with people, obsessed with their phones, and that can be, drawn from Fahrenheit 451 as well. So yeah, as we said, it feels the themes it tackles are real, even though, of course, the book really isn't. And personally, yeah, my knowledge is pretty limited, so I hope you listeners got something out of that. And I know I yapped on, but I think the book is really interesting to take things from, and yeah, as I said, I haven't read it, so I've just had those list of points. But yeah, anything else you want to add?
I think all that's left to say is big thank you to Louis. That some amazing notes that you've read from, and you wrote them all. It's really amazing. So thank you very much.
No, that's
took
very
up a lot of time to talk to me about that and to spread that information. So yeah, it was really cool. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Brilliant. So
Perfect.
So thank you for listening, and we will be back in the next week, maybe even
Yeah.
for some more English literature. So yeah, thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you for listening.